Dobro večer, dobrodošli. Kot je že povedala Kristina, smo zadovoljni, da ste tukaj na tem našem dogodku in da bom takoj nadaljevala v angleščini, tako da tudi naša dva gosta razumeta to, kar pravimo. So, Fareed and Wafo, I just said hello to the people here in the room and said that we will be speaking in English, and so I will continue now in English for this bit. So this is one of a series of events that we as Gibbon za pravice Palestincev are organizing now more intensively, let's say, than usually, because of the genocidal war that Israel is waging against the Palestinian people, and I would say not only in Gaza, but also in the West Bank. Where the attacks and raids have intensified dramatically, and the killings as well since the 7th of October. And this is the reason why today we have two guests with us. One is Fareedom Taamallahom, a journalist and friend from Kira, living in Ramalli most of the time. And he will be talking with Kristina about the situation in the West Bank. And then, as you probably already know, we also have our friend Wafo Kanan with us. She is from Gaza, and therefore she will be speaking from that viewpoint. And they will be both in conversation with Kristina. That's one thing. The next thing I have to say very briefly is that if anybody was informed about the Amnesty International event tomorrow at 12, just in case, from your expressions I see you were not, but in any case it has been moved because of bad weather to Monday, in case you're interested, on Monday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon at the square in front of the parliament, okay? So that is Trg, not Revolucije, but Republike, where there is an event referring to Gaza. Okay, so it's an invitation as well then. It's hot, so it's like they will be reading testimonies, evidence, and talks, but we will be staying there, not walking. Okay. So, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. And welcome to everybody at the International Day of Solidarity with Palestine. Thank you to Portlice, thank you to the Movement for the Rights of Palestinians who are hosting today's event. It's a great pleasure, as Nada has said, to welcome tonight with us Wafo Kanan, a pharmacist and also humanitarian projects manager from Gaza, who has lived now in Slovenia for 2 years. We're very happy to have you here. And it's also an honor that from Ramalli we're joined by Fareedom Taamallahom, a journalist, but also a farmer who has a farm in Kira, author of a book about the history of Kira. It's the village in the West Bank. And my first question would be, I think the whole world, in a way, it's under, seeing what's happening in Gaza, the genocide that seems to be happening in front of our eyes, what also the experts from the UN and from the academy are warning about. However, at the same time, what we see is also somehow stepping up of the violence by Israel in West Bank, but also in Israel. And it seems also that the reaction on the attacks by Hamas on 7th October, so the attacks by Israel on Gaza have somehow crystallized what Palestinians have been describing now for years or decades, that Nakba, that happened in 1948, is actually a process that has been continuing now for decades, and it's still going on with the aim of achieving what was said that it was the beginning, so the land without the people, for people without the land. But Palestinians are there, they remain steadfast, dignified, and also what was mentioned was that in the 2023 we have seen more deaths, more violence from the illegal Israeli settlers than in the last decades. And I'm wondering, at the moment, we have heard about today's attack on Jenin, that many say was unseen in the amount of violence. Daily now, Fareed, you mentioned you go because the prisoners are being released by Israel as part of the deal, because Hamas releases the Israelis from Gaza. However, we also hear that more than 130 people have been apprehended by Israeli forces and are newly arrested and taken into prisons. So I'm wondering, how does currently the Israeli war on Palestinians manifest itself in the West Bank where you live? What does it mean? You have written a text for the Middle East Eye in which it seems almost as if there is an apology because of what's happening in Gaza, because of the terrible situation there. But the fact is that the violence also takes place in the West Bank. So, can you tell us more about the situation?
Thank you, Kristina, and thanks for everyone who is attending this event. And I hope that the family in Gaza are well and safe. The people in the West Bank, really, they feel that they are a little bit shy to talk about their crisis when the situation in Gaza is witnessing genocide. So really, we feel a little bit shy or ashamed to talk about closures and killings here and there and settlers while Gaza is being under genocide. So, but we are trying also to show that we are one people. We are one people in the West Bank and in Gaza. And usually the war, every time there is a war, the war it proves again and again that we are one people. And even the release of the prisoners, this exchange of prisoners, it proves again that we are one people, because I mean the resistance in Gaza did the exchange with Israeli captives for Palestinian prisoners, and all of them are from the West Bank, the prisoners. So every night when we go to welcome these freed prisoners, we feel that this is because of the resistance in Gaza. And people are confused whether to be happy or to be sad, because the price paid for this freedom of those prisoners was paid by blood in Gaza. So we are happy for the release of the prisoners. At the same time, we are very sad, we are heartbroken that they were released because of a heavy price in Gaza. Regarding to your question about the situation in the West Bank, the West Bank has been witnessing a very intense of violence from settlers, not only after the October 7th, but before and even the last year and the years before. The settlers in the West Bank are, now we have almost 700,000 settlers in the West Bank. And they are living among the Palestinians, and they are expanding the settlements on daily basis, and they are grabbing more and more lands, and it's private land most of the time. And they are not only taking the land, but also attacking the farmers. And during the olive harvest last month, the settlers in our area, where my village is, in this area, in this province, were spreading leaflets to the farmers, asking them to leave the country. And the leaflets were in Arabic, written in Arabic, saying that you don't have the right, we as Palestinians, they say that you don't have the right to be here, and you should leave to Jordan. Otherwise, we are going to commit crimes and make a new Nakba for you. So it is your choice, either to leave voluntarily or you will be kicked out by force. And also in the other villages surrounding to my village, settlers are attacking the people while harvesting, and even they killed one of the farmers the last month, in front of his family when he was farming and collecting the olive. Settlers came with guns to this man with his 2 boys and his wife, where they were harvesting. And they asked them to leave the land. And when they argue with them, they shot the man, and he was killed. And in addition to that, the arrests and the detainees of Palestinian detainees, since October 7th, around 3,300 Palestinians was arrested by Israelis. You add this to another 5,000, they were already arrested before the October 7th. And around 250 people killed in the West Bank from October 7th, and another around 260 or 250 before October 7th. So, I mean, the war against the Palestinians in the West Bank is continued before the October 7th. But it's intensifying more and more with this. And recently, even the Israeli government, after October 7th, they are arming the settlers. They are giving weapons for the settlers, and they are forming militia to protect. This is very funny. It's ironic that the settlers, maybe some people, they don't know, the settlers are usually, they are military in a civil uniform. So the settlers usually are very fanatic. They are part of the Israeli army, and they have guns. They are part of the army, but they are putting like civil clothes. But even though the Israeli government is trying to help them and to give them like some kind of protection, claiming that they are militia or semi-like official militia protecting the settlements and the settlers. And those people are taking this seriously, and they are attacking people. And the army, most of the cases, the Israeli army is there. When the settlers attack Palestinians, usually the army is watching that. And they don't interfere unless the Palestinians try to defend themselves, and then the army will come and shoot, as what happened in Qusra like 4 weeks ago. The settlers came to the village, to the farmers, and there was like the people try to defend themselves, and then the army came and they shot 4 people killed on the spot in one day. They killed 4 people from the same village because they tried to resist the settlers. So the army always is there. He is watching, and at the right moment, they will come and they will take over and punish the Palestinians and shoot them. So also on the other side, the refugees camps in the West Bank are targeted heavily by the Israeli army. And even people call Jenin as the small Gaza now, because the Jenin camp, almost every day, the army raid the refugee camp. They destroy the infrastructure. They kill people. Today they killed two children, and maybe you saw the video. It was the video. They said that we killed the commander of the brigades of Al-Aqsa or whatever, but they killed 2 kids. And that happens every day in Tulkarem refugee camp, in Balata, in Garnables, in Jenin, in Hebron. So this is ongoing in the West Bank. And even after the truce in Gaza, now in Gaza, there is no war in Gaza now at the moment, but it's not including what is happening in the West Bank. So we feel that we are, the people of the West Bank, we are left behind. We are not part of this truce, and there is no Palestinian Authority or government protecting us. We hear a lot of speaking by the Americans and the Europeans about the necessity of protecting the civilians in the West Bank, but nobody is doing anything. And at the moment when we try to defend ourselves, the army will interfere, and the international community will say that this is terrorism, as what happened in Gaza on October 7th.
Okay, Fareed, I would just follow on something you mentioned. You mentioned the leaflets that were somehow distributed by the settlers threatening a new Nakba. Do you have anyone you can give these leaflets to as an evidence of what, you know, official Israeli politics are, or what people, the illegal Israeli settlers, are saying, so to somehow prove the genocidal intention behind what they are doing?
Yeah.
Is this like, I don't know, a police of Palestinian Authority, any NGOs?
I have a copy of it. I have a copy, and I sent it to the Haaretz newspaper in Israel, and they published it. And I sent it, I think, to Nada and Ursha and my friends. I think I sent you Nada, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, we have these leaflets, and we have copies of them, and we have photos to prove that. And we are taking these threats seriously. It is not a joke. It is the real goal of the Israeli government and the settlers is to take over the Palestinian land, especially in the West Bank. West Bank is part of the, it is in the focus of the displacement. They are, the main goal for the Israelis is to take as much as they can of the land, as less as possible of people, Palestinian people. So displacement is a serious issue, and we are taking their threats seriously. But that doesn't mean that we are afraid and that we are going to leave. We are not leaving. But I mean, it is a serious call, and it is supported by the Israeli government.
Okay, but there are no courts, no police that can protect you, basically.
No. No police, nobody. I think the American consulate, somebody from the American consulate came to this village to see these brochures and leaflets, but I didn't hear about anything happened after that.
Okay.
And even this man who killed the farmer in the village I told you about, this settlers, he took to the jail for 1 day, and the next day he was released because he was defending himself under this slogan of he was defending himself. So usually the settlers, this is a problem also, that the settlers, when they commit a crime or they kill Palestinians, they are not being taken to the jail or sentenced for the crimes. In the best scenario, they can give them like 1 month or 2 months, like community service or something like that.
Okay, thank you for it very much. I'll turn now to Wafa. What Fareed has been telling us now about the unaccountability of Israelis and somehow no second thoughts when crossing the so-called red lines and violating international law. This was well on display in Gaza in the last weeks. We have seen bombardments of hospitals, of schools, of desalination plants, of solar panels. So everything, it seems to make life impossible. And you yourself, you have family there. Their houses have been destroyed. And what we have heard from a Palestinian British doctor, Dr. Hassan Abu Sita, who returned from Gaza to London, he said that he feels that hospitals were targeted so that people whose deaths could be prevented will continue to die even after bombs stop falling. And I'm wondering, from your experience, from the context, from what you hear from Gaza, what should and what must be done, given that the winter is coming, so that we can enable life and survival for people in Gaza who are there?
Thank you, Christina. The first thing that we should, as Palestinians, now ask about is the immediate ceasefire. This is the first thing, because this is a priority, and we need first to stop this genocidal war. And then about the life and how we can restore life. There are several steps that should be done also immediately. The first thing, we need to ensure the access of the 2.3 million people in Gaza to the essential services. Here we are talking about essential services, food, drinkable water, even water for other hygiene and whatever that a human being will need. We need an access to the healthcare service. Some people, they are going to say, yeah, because as you said, Israel, they were intentionally trying to destroy as much as they can, and this was very clear. This was their idea, because they knew that at some point this will stop. So what they were trying to do, that this is a good time to destroy as much as they can. And as a humanitarian worker, I have been there for so long, and I was there during the previous aggressions and previous destruction. And I can say that we always, as Palestinians in Gaza, we were thinking that the Israelis, they have a strategy to do what we call the de-development strategy of Gaza. And this always like to destroy every few years. And again, the Palestinians, they need to rebuild and to spend years and years to rebuild. And then again, another massive destruction will start and again. So what should be done now, that first, that we should also try we should just immediately also start to rebuild. And this should be done by all the collaborative from the international community, from Arabic countries, and also from the Palestinians as well. Regarding the hospitals, because you mentioned hospitals, because now we can hear from here and there that there are some field hospitals, they are coming into Gaza, and they are trying to establish, like the one from Jordan, for example, the one from Qatar, and other Arabic countries, I believe. But what we can do now, just to reactivate the already existed hospitals. Why not to do this? Like Shifa hospitals. Today, for example, Shifa hospitals, finally they were able to start again, reactivate the kidney dialysis unit. Finally, after really for so long time, it was stopped totally. So it is a very good news was for people with kidney dialysis who are still stuck inside Gaza city and the north. And it's the same for another unit in the north. It's beside also an Indonesian hospital. Regarding the huge number of injured people, because we should consider also this, we have at least 35,000 of injured people, and we are talking about serious injuries. Those can be also immediately, we can immediately act about that. First, we should try to refer those let's say more critical cases to outside Gaza for like what happened before in the previous aggressions. We used to have such kind of programs of referral outside Gaza for treatment. And also we need to bring as much medical missions into Gaza as we can to help the already overwhelmed staff and medical staff in Gaza, because the medical staff there, they are really overwhelmed for now 55 days now. And I have my brother, one of them, he's a radiologist, and they are really very exhausted, and we can consider also their psychological status, not only their physical status now. And we, unfortunately, we lost a lot of them. We lost a lot of equipment, for example. We need also to facilitate the entry of those equipment, because now people, they are always talking about food and water. Yes, food and water are also very crucial. And also we need to consider, because today I was watching a video about the infrastructure and about the sewage system in an area in Gaza City called Sheikh Radwan. In Sheikh Radwan, there is a place, if it is not immediately, let's say, treated, it will be a real, very serious public health issue, because without a proper sewage system for the whole strip, there will be a really a problem for more infectious diseases. The another problem, it's about the sheltering. Shelter should be also, because I hear people all the time talking about, yeah, we are facilitating the entry of aid of food, which is also not enough. It's like one drop in an ocean. But people, they are not talking also about the shelters. Having 5,000 people in a small school is not a solution. If we are talking about winter coming, I have my older brother, he's at an UNRWA school now, because he lost his apartment in Gaza City and he lived to the south. He is in Rafah, for example. What is happening now, that thousands of them, they are inside one school. Can you imagine? It's like Osnona Shola. It's very similar to Osnona Shola here in Slovenia. And we are talking about 5,000, 6,000. What is happening right now, that they lift the children and the women inside the classrooms, and the men, they are sleeping and staying always in this playground, let's say, or those basketball or football place. And now, when it is winter, we can imagine how they can sleep. It's something that they should think about how to solve this. We need to think about how to do shelters, and nobody will please nobody say, okay, we can have tents, because those tents, they are not working during winter. We usually in Gaza, we have, during the winter time, we have very heavy rain. So this also should be solved immediately. Otherwise, the majority of the people, they will be sick. And again, this will make more stress on the health system that now is collapsed totally. So we will not only be talking about injured people, we will be talking about sick people that also they need proper treatment. Especially, like, for example, I can mention the respiratory infection. The respiratory infection, if not treated properly, it can be life-threatening, especially among children or among pregnant women or among those who have their immunity system is weak, for example. We should think about thousands of people, they have cancer disease inside Gaza. They already referred some of them outside, but we still have more and more. And those who have chronic disease. For yesterday when we were talking, me and you, Kristina, I mentioned, for example, because I'm a pharmacist, I mentioned, for example, people who have diabetes mellitus. It's a very common chronic disease in the whole world, and of course in Gaza. And if we are talking about the first treatment for diabetes mellitus, usually is insulin, and insulin, it's like like a rule that it needs a refrigerator to be stored. And we don't have electricity now for 55 days. So this means that there is no insulin in Gaza now. Even people, if they will say, okay, we still have it, or we can send insulin, you should think about how to restore the electricity to do this. Not only just to send your medication. The thing that we always, because I have been there during the previous aggressions, that the coordination is not always appropriate one between the people who are inside Gaza, who know more about the needs and the demand there, and the people who are outside and would like to send. There should be a very good and, let's say, very proper coordination and a high coordination between the international organization and the local organization outside and inside Gaza. Because inside Gaza, they know more what we want. It's not about, okay, we have a specific stock for those wartime, so we can send them some of our stock. It happened before. I'm not going to mention the organization, but it happened before several times that we received so many aid, but we don't use it. We threw it because we don't need it. This can be applicable for other places, but it's not for Gaza or for the injuries of Gaza. We are talking, for example, now about the majority of cases with like the 4th degree of burns. It's more than even the 3rd. Now the doctors, they are talking about another degree more than 3rd due to the phosphorus bombs during the last few weeks. And now we need more and more specific plastic surgeons, like Dr. Ghassan, for example, because in Gaza we don't have so many of them. We really have very few. And due to the blockade that have been imposed for more than 16 years, we couldn't easily refer our surgeons outside for training, for specific training, like this kind of training. So we usually prefer to bring people from outside into Gaza to help. Now, I know that some organizations that are doing this, but this is still not enough. And if we will say that, or not say, because we know that who is trying to make it a struggle for the organization to help more is Israel, I will blame them because they are not saying it literally. They are always just going, we need to enter more aid into Gaza. Okay, but why you are not saying the truth? That Israel is not allowing us to enter the specific or the proper amount of the aid that they need. They are even afraid to mention that. Those organizations should be neutral, and they are a humanitarian organization, and they should always mention literally what's going on the ground. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. Again, I don't want to mention organization, but I found it really very... I couldn't even express. But I found it, very, very bad to see that those organizations who are, for example, responsible to not allow any starving in this world, and they are okay with having 2.3 million population who are literally now starving. What with the amount of food that already inside Gaza or that they are planning to send is not enough. We are talking about too many of us, and we are talking about half of them, they are children, and we have 18% of those children are under 5 years old. So those children, they also need a proper type of food. Otherwise, they will later they will suffer from other diseases in the future. So this is what we are expecting, that the next few years we are expected more and more diseases among the population, either infectious or chronic. And of course this in addition to the disabled people that we are expecting, having with this huge number of amputated people and a huge number of people who unfortunately are going to be amputated soon if they will not receive the proper treatment. So it's a lot of things that should happen. And I would say as a humanitarian worker, the last thing that I would say, that I spend my life working there as a humanitarian worker with different organizations, and we spend the whole life, our career, just that they are providing us with training about how to prepare a good emergency response plan, how to prepare a good plans for a crisis, and when it happens, those plans disappeared. We cannot find, they are not working anymore because they are not doing it. So what's going on? And people in Gaza, I have my family and my friends there, we feel that there is something hidden among those organizations because they are not responding properly. They should, this is their responsibility. They should respond properly. Otherwise, they should say why they are not responding properly. Otherwise, for me, they should go. They should resign. They should be accountable. And the last thing to mention, that we should insist as Palestinians that Israel is responsible for us because they are the occupier and they caused all of this destruction and all of this killing, and they should be responsible, and they should be taken to be responsible and also to pay the price of this responsibility. If it comes to financial-wise, they should be responsible. I read one time that between Russia and Ukraine, this conflict, many Western countries, they mentioned that Russia should pay for the cost of the destruction that they made to the Ukrainian. So if we are talking about a more fair and just world, this should also happen, being the occupier, and because this massive destruction and killing.
And today in Al-Shifa hospital, they mentioned that fuel has still not reached them, or at least this is somehow in the news, which is also a key part of somehow starting again the processes and just working as a hospital. And we have heard today, I think, also the General Secretary of the UN saying that more somehow passages into Gaza should be opened. And there are enough passages. Basically, I mean, they can just open the borders, and there are many ways for humanitarian help to come in, whether from Israel or from the Egyptian side. It seems only that, as you said, something is blocking them, or Israeli occupation, Israeli army is blocking them. But I'm wondering, in terms of, we've seen what human beings are capable of when it comes to destruction. Now, war, they say it brings out the worst, but also the best in people. And I'm wondering, given your experiences in the wars of 2008, 2009, 2000, I think then 12, 14,
and
2021.
And those in between.
Yes, the smaller ones. When there were attacks, do you feel that it's possible to rebuild? Because sometimes it feels that in the West, people are just shocked and feel helpless because they can't imagine how this can be done. But it seems that you as Palestinians, as people in Gaza who have been through this, you have already rebuilt like amazing things and so many times, and shown like unimaginable almost resilience and steadfastness. So your experiences, I mean, do they make you feel hopeful this can be done, or yeah? And why? I just won't go into the other direction.
Yes, for sure. I can mention another example just to make it easier for the people. When there is an earthquake happened in any place in this world, did this mean that this place is not any, there is not any chance that it will be rebuilt again? along the history, how many massive earthquake happened, and they rebuilt it again. For Gaza, I will mention for you, I know so many people that their house, especially those who are living very close, like in Beit Hanun. We have a friend from Beit Hanun. I believe that they rebuilt their house maybe 4 or 5 times. Yeah, so it's that every time, unfortunately, they attacked the area, so their house is damaged or demolished, and then they rebuilt again and again. And if you will go now to Gaza, the people will say that whatever and however and whenever they will destroy, we will rebuild again. What was happening during the previous aggression? I will be honest to talk about it, because the construction materials needed for rebuilding are always need an Israeli permission to be entered. And what we faced during the previous aggression, that they were always trying to limit the amount of construction material allowed to enter and to delay as much as they can. So for example, I know a very high building that was totally demolished. It's a very high one, like maybe 15th, 16th floor. For Gaza, it was one of the highest. And they totally demolished it in the aggression of 2014. And they rebuilt it again and give the apartment to the owners just before I left to Slovenia. So it was 2021. This is how it's always like this. And the priority always given to the United Nations. So they started first to rebuild the schools, the UNRWA schools, UNRWA facilities, clinics. And of course, another priority always went to the health facilities, because we are talking about 2 essential services, education and health, that should not stop. And in parallel, of course, they start to go for the infrastructure and to rebuild the houses. But meanwhile, there was always a program from the UN organization to pay the rent for the people who lost their apartment. So they rent an apartment and they will stay until they will take again they will rebuild, or they will give money to do. So usually it takes a long time, I know. And this time, because of the massive destruction, we know that it will take a time. And this is one of the most, I believe, the most worries of the Palestinians now there. Whenever you will talk to anyone in Gaza, their worries is about how we are going to do this. But it's going to happen. They know. They will say, and we know we will rebuild again, but it will take some time if we will consider Israel a restriction of the entry of the construction material or even the teams. The another thing that now we should talk about, because I forgot to mention, the real need for the equipment of civil defense. We need specific equipment to take the rubbles, because we have thousands of bodies, they are still under the rubble. And this should be also a priority, because we need, of course, to take the rubble, just to rebuild also, but also to take those bodies. I have a friend, she lost her family, unfortunately, 1 month ago. Until now, she buried only 3 of them. And she still have like 10 more. They couldn't. Why? Because we don't have the equipment. And according to the statistics, the organization, those who are working in Gaza, they are saying that we are expecting around 7,000 people dead bodies who are under the rubbles. And maybe more, because we always see on social media people, they are asking about lost people now, including children. So every day we will see people asking, did you see, and they will post a photo, we don't know about this, about this, about this. Some of them, they were lost during their pathway from north to the south when they passed through the Israeli checkpoint. And some, they don't, because when those huge bombardments happened, of course, the people, they will go here and there, or others, they will be killed. And then, yeah, the people, they can run here and there, and children, they most probably can be lost. So the rebuilding is possible, as I said, but it will take time. And meanwhile, we should think about how to provide for the Palestinian the access to essential services, and ensuring their dignity also during this time until we rebuild it again. But definitely we will do this. We believe in this. We did it before, and we will do it forever. Yeah, of course, including my family. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Wafo. Fareed, you mentioned already before this feeling of, where to put the attention, or when this is happening in Gaza, how to ask people to be attentive and vigilant also about the violations in the West Bank that shouldn't be happening there. And it seems that the system we live in is based on competition, also competition for attention. And I'm wondering, as a journalist, how much are you able to travel to East Jerusalem? When was the last time you were in Gaza? And do you feel that these obstacles that Israel puts, not just geographically, but also politically and socially, when it arrests, students or family members, what you mentioned before, shoots members of the family. So it fragments the Palestinian society and the realities Palestinians live, whether in Israel of 48 or East Jerusalem, West Bank, or in Gaza are very different. Do you feel that what's happening now somehow is building on this feeling of oneness, or is it another stone that's being pulled from this togetherness and contributes to the fragmentation of the realities?
Look, this is very, very good question. It needs like some analysis maybe, but away from the war, let's put the war aside a little bit, and let's talk about the Israeli policy. The Israelis, they designed the whole system upon classification. They are very good when classifying Palestinians. I mean, Palestinians in the historic Palestine are classified into 4 different groups. And the situation and the conditions of every group is different from the conditions of the other group. And every group is separated from the other groups. This is the main idea of, I will explain. The best situation is the Palestinians who are carrying the Israeli nationality, which means we call them Palestinians in 1948, the Palestinian Israelis. So they are in a way they are Israelis. They hold the Israeli passport, but they are not equal citizens to the Jews of Israel. So this is number one. Number two, the people of Jerusalem, the Palestinians who are living in Jerusalem, the Jerusalem people, according to the Israeli law, they are residents of Jerusalem, but not citizens of Jerusalem, which, despite the fact that they were living there before the occupation. I mean, they are the indigenous people, but Israel is treating them as residents, temporary residents in Jerusalem. And the idea behind this, if you leave Jerusalem to Slovenia, for example, to work in Slovenia or in Jordan or in Egypt and in America, so you lose your status and you cannot come back to Jerusalem. And even if you go from Jerusalem to Ramallah to live or to work in Ramallah, then you lose your status as a resident in Jerusalem. The main goal of this is to empty the city of Jerusalem from the Palestinians. So we have Palestinians 48, Jerusalem people, and then the people of the West Bank, which I am one of them. We in the West Bank, we cannot move, we cannot go to Gaza, and even the people in 1948 and Jerusalem, they cannot go to Gaza, but they can come to the West Bank. But we can't, as the West Bankers, we cannot go to Jerusalem, we cannot, because there is a wall surrounding Jerusalem and the borders, the 1948 Green Line. So we are not allowed to visit. For example, Jerusalem is like 10 kilometers from my house, but I cannot go there. I need permits, Israeli permits, and there are some people, they have permits, they can go for work or for hospital in some cases. But most of the people who are trying to get this permit should be neutral when it comes to the conflict. They call it nakeh in Hebrew, which means clean. So if I need a permit to work in Israel, I have to be clean in the Israeli definition of cleanliness, which means I'm not part of the struggle or the resistance, not only the armed resistance, but I should not be like in the BDS, for example, or doing any demonstrations. So these are the people of the West Bank. And then on the lower level are the people of Gaza, and the lowest level. The people in Gaza are in the worst situation. Those are under siege. They are in like a prison, an open prison in Gaza. They cannot leave to Egypt. They cannot leave to Israel. They cannot come to the West Bank because of the division, the geographic division, and the barriers and checkpoints surrounding Gaza. The people of Gaza cannot come to the West Bank, and the people of the West Bank, they cannot go to Gaza. And this separation, geographic separation, leads to like psychological and political split between the people of the West Bank. So when somebody comes from Gaza to the West Bank, for example, the workers who were sent to the West Bank after the October 7th, the Gazan workers who were working in Israel, they were sent to the West Bank. They kicked them to the West Bank from Israel. They came to the West Bank, and people here in the West Bank start to interact with those people of Gaza. And we found many people say that the Gazan people are different from the Palestinian people. The accent, the traditions, the food, the behavior in a way. So I want to say that this separation for 17 years start to establish, it was started as physical, now it's political, and then it's going to where totally you feel that they are totally different people. It is not like the same people in the West Bank when it comes to the way of life, their style of life, the way how they act, and this is like a result of this separation. There is no interaction between. Imagine that Maribor in Slovenia is cut off from Slovenia, and the people of Maribor are next to Austria, and they became like Austria. It is the same with Egypt. They feel that the Gazan people are closer to Egypt, and they are becoming more. They are not Egyptians, they are not Palestinians, they are something in the middle. So this classification dictated by Israel and forced by Israel make the Palestinian people as if, and we can add to this the Palestinians in the diaspora. I mean, in Lebanon, in Jordan, the Palestinian refugees who are not allowed to come back to their homeland, they are totally another story, because the people in Lebanon is different from the refugees in Jordan, from the refugees in Egypt or in Syria. So this is another story. So, but I'm talking about the historic Palestine right now. So this division, the political division, and this classification made by Israel, with time, with decades of this policy, after decades of dictating this policy, you feel that Palestinians in the West Bank are a little bit different from the people in Jerusalem, and different in their habits and way of thinking from the Palestinians in Israel and from Gaza. And even there are some jokes about these things, because the Palestinians in the Green Line, the Israeli Palestinians, they speak Arabic with Hebrew. It's like half Arabic, half Hebrew. So we have many jokes about it. The people in Gaza, for example, they like to eat hot food, like with hot pepper, chili, very chili food. So we make jokes about them. And I mean, this classification and division of the Palestinian people is causing many, many problems. And if you, as a Palestinian, live in the West Bank, married a woman or a man from Gaza, you cannot bring him to the West Bank. And my nephew, for example, he fell in love, I don't know how, with a girl from Gaza. And he spent like 5-6 years trying to reach her, to reach each other to marry. He cannot go to Gaza, she cannot come to the West Bank. And then what they did, they went to Egypt. They went to Cairo, and they met there, and they married and lived in Egypt. It's the same if you are marrying a spouse in Jerusalem, from Jerusalem, or Israeli Palestinians, you cannot live together. You have to separate, or it is not easy to take this decision to marry a woman from Jerusalem, or for a man from the 1948 to marry a woman or a woman from the West Bank. So this division is creating social problems now, and and also social, political, psychological. So they are trying to divide and to turn these people into small pieces here and there. But when it comes to the war, we all feel that we are all one people. So now, when the killing happens in Gaza, you feel that it's happening in Ramallah. Yeah, the people, the emotions, the unity, the fear of identity, we feel it. We feel that we are one people. When it comes to war and punishment and agony and atrocities, we are one people. We are all together bleeding. When Gaza is bleeding, Ramallah is bleeding. People here are depressed, and you feel it everywhere. When you go and move, you feel the people are, even it's happening in Gaza, it's far away, and it's totally split from the West Bank, but you feel that it's one people. And also of this exchanging of prisoners, it's enforcing this idea of that we are one people. The people are killed in Gaza. I mean, the price was paid in Gaza, but the reward is taken in the West Bank by freeing prisoners from the West Bank and from Jerusalem. And even today, they are freeing women from the 1948. Israeli Palestinian women today are being freed. And this is the first time it happened. It never happened before, that in exchanging of prisoners, that the Israelis will free prisoners from Israeli Palestinians, because the Israeli position used to be that they are Israelis. You don't have to interfere with that. We don't do exchange of prisoners for citizens, Israeli citizens. This is our affair. You have nothing to do with this. So today they are I think 7 or 8 women to be released tonight are holding Israeli passport. They are Israeli Palestinians. So I wanted to say that despite of all these years and decades of splitting the country and turning this nation, but we still have this feeling of the unity, and that our struggle is one struggle, our agony is one agony, and unfortunately most of the time we are suffering agonies, and we are suffering. So the suffering is one suffering, and we feel that we all together, one people, let's say virtually, we are one people, but we are like in the diaspora, in Gaza, in West Bank, in 48, but we have one feel that we are one nation, and we are looking for the day that this nation restore its unity, its physical and tangible unity, and I think that will be achieved one day. I don't know if in our lifetime or not, but this is the biggest ambition of the Palestinian people, is to be united in historic Palestine all together.
And do you feel that, so this is happening on the level of society and people, what effects does it have politically, or how much do you feel that through these years has this influence of people onto the Palestinian Authority or Palestinian parties, so Fatah, Hamas, or other political parties, how responsive are they? I mean, because it doesn't seem that this is connecting them, or is our impression wrong?
Look, the political influence or the political division took place before this social thing, because there is like a split between the West Bank and Gaza. There is there is like a division between the government in West Bank and under Fatah and the Palestinian Authority, and in Gaza under Hamas. And Fatah is more popular in Gaza, and Hamas is more popular in the West Bank. So the people in Gaza, I think, according to the survey, they are pro-Fatah more than pro-Hamas. They are against the government, the Hamas government in Gaza, and the people in the West Bank, they are against the Fatah government in the West Bank. So there is like people, I think this is natural, people, they don't favor the government who is ruling and where they are. And the split is becoming even a split into the political parties. I mean, it started between Gaza and the West Bank. There are Hamas in Gaza and the West Bank, one unit, and there are Fatah in the West Bank and Gaza, they are one unit. So the division was like geographic more than partisan. Now, from my last visit to Gaza, when I went to Gaza, the last time I went to Gaza was November last year, like these days, I noticed that the parties itself, the political parties, are split inside. I mean, the Fatah in the West Bank is different from Fatah in Gaza. And Hamas in the West Bank is totally, in Hamas it's more clear. It's totally different from Hamas in Gaza. You feel that Hamas in the West Bank is more like Fatah people. And you feel like Fatah people in Gaza are like Hamas people. And even with their political stance, their political positions, and the way how they think about different issues, about social things, about political things, you feel that this division started political, but it is going toward the political parties and toward more social also, because you cannot intermarry with Gazan people. You cannot socialize with them, you cannot meet with them, you cannot talk with them. So the division will be deeper and deeper with time. And I think this issue should be solved later when we have this unity. We need to fix this kind of things later or maybe later. But when it comes to the war, when there is war or there is a crisis, we all feel that we are one people. We are all together, and we feel that all these divisions created by Israel and by maybe the political parties are disappearing. Like now, you don't feel this split. You feel that we are one people, even if we are torn and we are divided and we are far physically, we are not together. But still, you feel that we are one people at the end of the day.
Okay, thank you. I will turn Wafo to you now. Something that has been...
But can I add something
Yes, sure.
to what... Because he really did a very good analysis of the situation, but I should speak as a person from Gaza about it.
Who likes to eat more chili?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. People in Gaza, they like hot chili. And you in West Bank, you like msakhan, yeah, Fareed. We know this. Anyway, I would like to mention a good example about how Israel is working on this, even recently, during what's happening now. Israel is usually supposed to pay for the Palestinian Authority this kind of amount of money to pay the salaries. It's a part of Palestinian money. Yeah, but anyway, it's a long story about it, but I will mention it quickly. So they were supposed to pay this month, I mean in October, like usual. But what they did, that they transferred the amount of money that equal only the salaries of the Palestinian Authority employee in the West Bank, excluding the amount of money of the Palestinian Authority employees in Gaza. And I was really glad, because I'm not always in favor of what Palestinian Authority is doing. But this time I found it that they were aware about that, and they refused this, and they returned back the whole amount of money, saying otherwise we will get the whole amount of money to all Palestinian Authority employees, either in the West Bank or in Gaza, or not. So this can show you how they are working in this, because if you can imagine that during this very, let's say, stressful time, and people in Gaza, they will see that the people in the West Bank, they are receiving their salaries, and in Gaza they don't. This will make more and more division. So this is how the way that they think about it, and they couldn't leave anything without trying to divide more and more. And we can notice this, as Fareed said, that year by year we can feel this. But at the end, when, for example, what is happening today in Jenin, of course we feel, because we are Palestinians at the end, we are all Palestinians, but the suffering of people from Gaza is always more, maybe the worst. I can say an example. For example, when I'm very lucky to get this kind of Israeli permit to travel to Jordan, I'm only the last one in this queue. When we are in this, what they called Al-Limbi Bridge, I should first cross the Palestinian checkpoint, and then the Israeli checkpoint, and then the Jordanian checkpoint. And always we are at the end, in the Israelis and in the Jordanian. You are from Gaza, just wait here. And we can wait for hours, for example. And at the same time, we have people from the West Bank. Okay, you are from West Bank? Okay, you can go. So it was always like this. It seems that it's something in purpose. And we know this, and we notice this, because at the end we are not stupid people. We know this, and we are very aware about it. The problem that political-wise it's very, very complicated, and the political division happened in 2007 made it more and more difficult. I will tell you a funny thing, because I used to work with so many internationals as medical staff coming into Gaza. We are the only people in this world, I think, that we used to have 2 ministers for everything. So we 2 ministers for education, 2 ministers for health, one in Gaza and one based in the West Bank. And people, they were like, but how you have to? Okay, it's a very long story we need to tell about. So it's very complicated, and the occupation was trying for a long time to do it. Unfortunately, it happened in 2007, literally, and we found ourselves that we are like, we have Gaza and we have West Bank, and as Fareed mentioned, this also for people in Jerusalem and people in the occupied 1948. This is very true, unfortunately. But I wanted to add those 2 examples. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Christina,
yes.
just one thing to add. And even the food and the landscape is different. I mean, in Gaza is a coastal area, while the West Bank is more mountainous. So if you ask anyone in Gaza, any child in Gaza who was born and raised in Gaza, what do you want to see? He will say, I want to see a mountain. The children of Gaza, the ordinary children, had never seen a mountain. While if you ask a Palestinian child in the West Bank, what do you like to see? He will say, I want to see the sea. I had never seen a sea. So the children of the West Bank, they had never seen a sea or a coast or a beach, while the children of Gaza had never seen a mountain. So, and this is also, they have some psychological impact on Palestinians also as well.
Yes, and it's also very interesting. I think forensic architecture, they're also doing, I mean, this is, I think, in the level of, culture and people and family and society and growing up. But it's actually part of Israeli politics that they're trying to, when it comes to Gaza, change the landscape or change the produce that people grow, or what can be grown because of lack of water, because of the soil being in worse and worse state. So the level of occupation and somehow this erasure is very multifaceted in a way. But at the same time, it brings us, although it's so fragmented, we still hear, and now more and more, that what is to be desired is a Palestinian state and an Israeli state, something that Palestine has been promised in 48, what has been again promised in the 90s, and again now we hear it. And we also hear that Israeli diplomats, when they talk to European counterparts, what they say that they need from the Europe is to keep the idea of two-state solution alive. Because for the last, I think, 3 decades, two-state solution has meant erasure and stealing of Palestinian land, especially in the West Bank, but also if we look at Gaza, the conditions for living there have been just getting worse and worse. Now, I think, Fareed, you have forwarded also a recent survey about what Palestinian people think of the future or wish for the future, and many still, I think the majority says that they want a Palestinian state. However, many people say that Palestinian state cannot exist or unless you incorporate illegal Israeli settlers or somehow erase, ethnically clean 750,000 people out. It's very difficult to imagine which army is going to do that and who is going to ensure that and who is going to ensure then also somehow the safety of Palestinians and Palestinian state. And I'm wondering, when you think of the future, what kind of a solution do you think of? What could be a just solution, a fair solution for a free Palestine that is also viable in a way?
Yeah. Look, as a Palestinian, we know that it's very complicated because Israel made it very complicated. 30 years ago, the Palestinians, they signed this peace agreement in Oslo, and they agreed the solution of 2 states, one for Israelis and one for the Palestinians. And since then, Israel was working to make this impossible by doing this more and more fragmentation, by taking more lands from the West Bank, by imposing this tight blockade on Gaza and making this geographical and social and cultural split and even political between Gaza and the West Bank and East Jerusalem. So for us as Palestinians, we will always say that this is the only solution that we look, that we need to take our rights as Palestinians, those rights that were ensured or they were stated by all the international community and even by the UN conventions and UN resolution since 1947. There are UN resolutions since 1947, and since then no one in this world can enforce the Israelis to do and to give the Palestinians their rights, like the right of return. So the only solution that we can look for it, and for me as a Palestinian, I'm not a political person because I'm a pharmacist, but I'm a Palestinian. As a Palestinian, I found that this is the very good time to emphasize and to push the international community to be more accountable and to take the responsibility to make it feasible now. It's the good time to do this because I think the whole world knows that without giving the Palestinians their rights, there will be no end of this, of what is happening. Because you couldn't imagine that you will leave those millions of population live without dignity, dehumanizing them for so long, and just going through humiliation and through torturing and through killing, and they should be just silent and keep quiet, and that's it. So if we need to make it more applicable, the first thing is to end the blockade on Gaza, to stop these illegal settlements in the West Bank, and of course to enforce those illegal settlers to go out of those illegal settlements. There should be an insurance to do this more geographical passage between the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem, because it doesn't make sense to have a state and we couldn't even reach each other. As Fareed mentioned, for example, the international community, including the Western countries and the Arabic countries, they should take a part of it, because now we are talking about a place that is already distracted now, like destroyed, like Gaza. So also taking the responsibility to ensure the rebuilding of this place, and I believe that let's say for the Israelis, we should, not we, also all the international community, we should all ask them to have a time frame for this. It's not enough only just to ask them that you should do and do and do. There should be a very clear time frame for this. For example, during the next 3 years, during the next 4 years, we need to do abits like this. The other thing that about the Palestinians, because as we said, we are already divided. This also need to be figured out. The Palestinians, those all different parties, they should be under one umbrella. And I believe as a Palestinian, because it's very clear how the Israelis for so long, they were trying to weaken the Palestinian Authority from year to year, and we can see how the Palestinian Authority performance now. So they did this. And I think that the only way for us as Palestinians to to have this kind of political solution is to go for an election. And we should decide, because what we have seen now for 55 days, that everyone is talking about who is going to lead the Palestinians, and we are not the Palestinians who are talking about it. I don't know, how come that you can talk on behalf of us? Why you are talking on behalf of us? We should decide who should lead us. We can, the Palestinians, do it. Just let us do it. And it can be done by an election. They can, those parties, they can talk together. They can go for several agreements and mediated by Arabic countries. And the Arabic countries, they can be like observers. We can have some international observers also to observe that Israel is committed to what should be done to end the occupation and end the blockade, and to ensure the rebuilding of Gaza, and to ensure the evacuation of the illegal settlements, and so on. This is the only thing that we found it as a solution as Palestinians. This can be our future without having our state of Palestine, and without having our rights, without having this right to live with dignity. And I'm saying with dignity because what we have seen for so long, that they are always trying to dehumanize us. Since I was born, I was feeling this. So all this wouldn't happen in one moment. We know that it will take some time, but also Israel should be accountable and should be responsible to show a time frame for doing this. And I'm not a political again, but I believe that this couldn't be done by, most likely, by this Israeli government this time. I'm not sure. But I believe that if the international community in the Western countries and the Arabic countries all together, they want to do this, they can do it. This is the trick. How to do it, this can be agreed.
Okay. Fareed, maybe. And we will also then take some quick questions. Yes, okay.
Okay, I will try to answer this question very quickly, because it's not easy to answer this. This is the 1 million question. It needs like a special maybe event to talk about this kind of solution. But in a hurry, the Palestinians are not united when it comes to the solution they think about. I mean, for Fatah, for example, the Palestinian Authority, they are favoring the two-state solution. For Hamas and other leftist people, they think there should be only one solution, one state. It is Palestine. So this question is a little bit tricky how you ask it. It needs like, first of all, you cannot ask this question when the war is taking place, because people will be very extreme in there, and I will be extreme now when I answer this question. So I will try to hold on and to wait before I say something about it. But if you ask me now, what is the solution? I will say that it should be to undo everything have been done along 75 years. We have to undo the Naksa, to undo the Nakba, and to undo the displacement, to undo the Zionist idea. So this is the ideal solution from my perspective. But I know, on the other side, I know that there are some de factos, there are some status quo now taking place. There are many people, Israelis, Jewish, born in this country, and maybe they consider this as their homeland. So for me, I mean, when I answer emotionally, I answer it in a different way from when I think about it. But I have been all the time one of those people who calling for the one-state solution, which means we should have between the river and the sea, we should have one state. I don't know what the name could be. Could be like Gaddafi said, Isratim, or I don't know. The name is not important, but which is more important is to have a democratic state, a democratic secular state. Everyone in this country should have the equal rights, political rights, regardless of religion and ethnicity. And everybody live in this democratic state. We have one parliament, one government. We vote for this, equal votes. And if the Israelis want to stay in this country, I don't mind if they stay. under the condition that all the displaced, the refugees who were displaced from Palestine should have the right to return to their country. So for me, this is I think this is not the best solution, but I think this is more viable than the two-state solution, because now the two-state solution, you cannot draw a line now to say this is Palestine and this is Israel after we have like 700,000 settlers and around 300 settlements in the heart of the West Bank. As I told you before, when I look from my window, I see Bet El, the Israeli settlement, like 500 meters across my house on the other side of the street. So it's not easy to draw a line saying this is Palestine and this is Israel. And it's not fair that we Palestinians, the people who are the indigenous people of this country, to get only 21 or 23% of the historic Palestine. This is not fair, I think. But if you are asking me about the Palestinians in general, I feel that the Palestinians, the old generation of Palestinians, the older people, they're more favoring the two-state solution. But the new generation now, the young people, they don't care about these political things, about political ambitions of freedom, about this independence. And they are more, I think they are more concerned about their civil rights, their freedom of movement, for example, to have the more dignity, to have jobs and work. They don't care maybe a little, I don't know, maybe I cannot generalize, but that's what I feel, that people are more, they want freedom, they want dignity, they want to work, jobs, more than this political entity called Palestine or Israel. And according to the last survey, like 68% of Palestinians say that their support for the two-state solution has declined, which means that less and less people are favoring the two-state solution, I think. But the problem is that we are not asked about this. I mean, we are not given the option, what do you like, this or that? We are not getting the one state, we are not getting the two-state solution. So the problem is that the Zionist idea, the Zionist plan or policy is to undermine any kind of Palestinian state, whether two-state solution or one-state solution. They look to the Palestinians, to Palestine in general, and Palestinians as it's like either they or Palestinians. They cannot coexist with Palestinians. The Zionist idea cannot live with other people. We are goyim. We are, in the Hebrew, in the Torah, we call us goyim, the others. So they cannot live with these others, strangers, human animals, you know. So the problem is that the Israelis are not accepting neither of the solutions.
Okay. Any questions from the audience? Yes, Nada, go.
Thanks. Do you still have time, Fareed? You said you have to go.
5 minutes.
Panic.
We don't hear you. Yes.
I'm figuring out the time. Yes, 25. I have like 20 minutes. 10,
Okay.
15.
No, my question is this. If you could comment on the absence of PA in all this, what is going on, because we don't hear anything from them. If you can comment on this.
I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm as a person, I don't expect anything from the Palestinian Authority. But I expect them to keep silent, because when they open their mouth, they talk very bad things. So I prefer they keep silent, because their existence is related to these political agreements and this security coordination with Israel. And the whole existence of the Palestinian Authority is related, or let's say connected, to their relation with the Israeli political security organization. So the Palestinian Authority cannot do more than what they have done. And if they speak, what they will speak is very bad. So it's better to keep silent. I think it's better to keep them silent and not to hear from them. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, yes, Fareed. I will add just from a Gaza perspective, yeah, the same, that we are not surprised by the Palestinian Authority reaction to what is going on, because for 16 years now, we didn't hear from them nada. It's not the first time that we didn't hear from them. I know that this time it was the worst, and we are talking about genocidal war. It's not something that can happen all the time. It's something that, of course, shouldn't happen. And we were hoping at some point that because it's a very extreme thing happening, that they will have just some reaction, but unfortunately they didn't. And I can tell you that people there, they are too angry of this kind of reaction. And even we saw sometimes when the Palestinians at the West Bank, they went for a protest, for example, how they behaved aggressively towards the Palestinians. But I would like to add that also we expected more from the Palestinians in the West Bank, not only from the Palestinian Authority. We know about the Palestinian Authority. The Israelis, they are always saying that, yeah, their role is just to keep the West Bank quiet. So we know about this, and we don't expect too much. But the Palestinians from in Gaza, they were expecting a little bit much more from the Palestinians in the West Bank. I know that it's going too bad there in terms of the Israelis and what they are doing there, but also we were expecting much more, even just more, let's say, more civilian reaction, more protest, like we can, more daily protests, for example, more strikes, for example, those kind of things that can show more solidarity and more reaction. So yeah, this is how we in Gaza we can feel. But for the Palestinian Authority, we know that it's a hopeless case, most likely.
What about the Palestinians in Israel? So the Palestinians of 48, is there an expectation that they could also do something? We've seen like protests there at one point, this fear inside Israel of the civil war. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, we saw this, but we saw also how they are making it more restriction for them. I saw even on social media, if you even post something about Gaza on or even you are posting a story on your social media, they will come and kidnap you, and you will be present for a reason, for not another a simple reason. Let's say it's a security reason, that you are breaching the security of Israel as a state. So we know that for them, because they are Israelis, Palestinian, they are holding Israel's ID, but for the Palestinians, the West Bank it's totally different. So yeah, I can say that we were expecting much more, as you said, much more civilian reaction, let's say. And we can exclude the hot places like Jenin, of course, yeah, because we know how it's going on there, yeah. But at the end, we know that it's very complicated, but for the Palestinian Authority, they don't have any excuse for this reaction. Never ever. And we can see that all over the world, all the leaders, they are going here and they're talking about Gaza, but we couldn't see them doing this. What they are doing in Ramallah, what they are doing there, we don't know. What are you doing in Ramallah? You should also go all over the world, yeah, to do something. Just so this is the problem. Yeah.
Maybe any reactions from you, Fareed?
Yeah, I wanted to say that the Palestinian Authority is part of this classification policy. I mean, they are conspiring with Israel to dictate this kind of policy. That I know that the Palestinian Authority here trying to tell the people in the West Bank, forget about Gaza. Gaza, they are led by Hamas, and Hamas did not consult us when they declare war in Israel. So it's their business. So you in the West Bank, keep calm. We have nothing to do with the people in Gaza, with the war in Gaza. you just keep calm, because if you don't, if you make noisy and you make demonstrations and resistance, the Israelis will do the same in the West Bank. This message is delivered to the Palestinians in the West Bank, not directly, but indirectly. So the Palestinian Authority is part of this classification of dividing the people of Gaza from the people in the West Bank. But I am afraid, this is my concern, that the Palestinian Authority, they will benefit from all what happened. And at the end of the game, they will win everything, because the international community, they need to have a body to rule the West Bank and Gaza, at least for rebuilding Gaza. And most likely, Mahmoud Abbas will jump into the picture, and he will take all the credit, and he will do it. And this is my concern. I hope it will not happen. But maybe most likely that will be the case, unfortunately.
But Fareed, there was some time ago already talk of Palestinian Authority somehow dismantling itself, so dissolving, yeah, because it was quite clear that they're actually just a service for the Israeli occupation. Do you feel that resistance from inside West Bank against Palestinian Authority could actually stop such a scenario that you fear?
I personally, I believe that people in the West Bank have like 2 or 3 layers when dealing with oppression. I mean, there is the oppression of Israel. This is the biggest layer, the first one. And there is the Palestinian Authority layer. This is a new layer. And the third layer is the capitalism. I mean, because Palestine is part of this international financial system.
Pragmatic cynicism.
The ordinary Palestinian is suffering 3 layers of oppression. The first one is the financial, economic one, and then the Palestinian Authority, and then the Israeli occupation. And if we need to get rid of occupation, unfortunately, now we have to start with getting rid of the 2 layers. So in my opinion, in my vision, I think that the one-state solution is the best solution. The first condition to go forward for this solution is to dismantle the Palestinian Authority, because the Palestinian Authority is becoming an obstacle. And there is a group of people, their interest now is to stay in power and to undermine any kind of resistance and any kind of solidarity, even with Gaza. I mean, what Wafa said, that was true. I was in the demonstration, one of these demonstrations, when we were demonstrating for Gaza, and then the Palestinian security came and they shot us, and they shot tear gas and bullets, and they destroyed the whole demonstration. So this is the function of the Palestinian Authority. It cannot survive without this. That's why I say we need to dismantle, not because I think it is a Palestinian matter, but because the function, the reason behind the establishment of the Palestinian Authority was this role. So the Palestinian Authority, this function is an obstacle. We need to get rid of this obstacle and to rebuild a new Palestinian government, a new Palestinian political system that is totally independent from the Israeli side and from the Israeli agreements with Israel, especially the security ones.
Okay. Any more questions? No? Then I will have one for both of you, and then we'll finish because I know we're running out of time. What sort of solidarity when it comes to, I mean, we see global solidarity in a way that probably hasn't been seen before when it comes to Palestine. And I'm wondering, what does it help most, or what do you feel are the actions that should be taken, are the messages that should be spread, forwarded, ideas? Yeah, maybe Fareed, you, and yeah.
Me first? Yeah, I think I used to say that, and I will say it again. that we need, first of all, from the people around the world, nobody should say that I cannot do anything. No, everybody can make difference. I mean, every single sound, talk, demonstration like this event can make difference, because at least we need to talk about Palestine, to talk about it. We here in the occupied Palestine, we look, and I always talk with Nada about this, because Nada is always pessimistic. I'm always trying to tell her that we here in the Palestine, we view any demonstration in the world as a helpful thing. It's the only solution, the only hope we have here now during the war. The only hope we had is these demonstrations. We look to these demonstrations and we appreciate it very much, and we think it's the only thing can help, because it will influence the government. So in order to have this taking place, we need to boycott Israel for sure, to call for the boycott of Israel and divestment of Israel, to demonstrate for Palestine and to talk about Palestine, and to try to influence the government in every country that to call for ceasefire and to stop these atrocities. And then later, after the war, I ask everybody who can to come and visit Palestine. Visiting Palestine I think is the most important thing in your solidarity with Palestine. If you come and see what is happening here, you will understand everything. It will be very clear. I know that not everyone can come, but at least those who can, when they go back to their countries, they can talk about Palestine, they can talk about what they have seen. And this is very important, and I think everyone can make a difference.
Thank you. Wafo?
Yeah, I would agree with Fareed, because the only thing that we are always saying that don't stop talk about Palestine. And we can see that talking about Palestine and using social media properly and using media properly made a difference, because through this, people started to go to the streets and start to demonstrate and start to make more pressure on their governments. And then the governments start to talk finally that, that there should be a solution for the Palestinians, this genocide should stop, and they start to condemn Israel of this genocidal war. Because if we can compare the first 2-3 weeks and compare now, there is a difference, and this difference didn't come without any previous things happened. Of course, the first thing that was the resilience and how much the people in Gaza, they were trying to struggle this occupation and to struggle as much as they can to keep strong. And the second thing was, of course, the people, the population. We are talking about especially the Western countries, the European countries, in USA, in UK, in America, in Latin America, and all over the world. We can see how this made a difference. So speaking and continue speaking about Palestine is very important. The second important thing that people, because we know many people, and me, also I know many people, they don't know how this started. They don't know about the root causes of the problem. Maybe this is their first time to hear about it and why this is happening. So it's very important that we can just tell them where to read or where to go, or if they want to attend such kind of events will be helpful, and to bring more researchers or people who are very well educated about the root causes of this, so they can talk, and people they will be more well educated about the root causes and about how happened even before October 2023. So this kind of, let's say, advocacy about the Palestinian rights is very important. The second thing, of course, boycott, because we can see how many companies in this world, they are supporting the killing of children. I don't believe that you want to be a part of this. So also this is very important. The third thing that, because again, I'm a humanitarian worker at the end, I can say that in Gaza now, what we need, hopefully that there will be a ceasefire announced. What we will need that to of course, to send as much specialized teams to Gaza, because we need specialized teams in everything, not only medical teams. We will need people for infrastructure, for construction, for education, for psychological support. So everyone who know or who can even, they can be a part of it, it will be good. Try to push your government also to be a part of it, because if every country will be a part of it, this can be done. This will be because this will need like more collaborative efforts from everyone in this world. And also, of course, donation, because without donation this couldn't happen. But always look for trusted organization to donate. You can just also go do some searches, and you will know how to donate, and through trusted organization. The last thing that I can say, if as Fareed said, I would be very, very happy to see people going to visit Gaza and to show more solidarity to the people there, and to see, because when you see, it's much different if you just watch it on TV, and when you talk to the people there, it's very different. The details hidden, because the media is not saying everything. We know everything because we are from there, and my family, my friends, they are there. Those details that you don't know, so there you can see how it is going, and you can hear from the people. And I think this is very important, because it's the time to show more practical solidarity to the Palestinians. So this can, at the end, hopefully will bring us to a final solution for this.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to Patricia.
Kristina, can I add something? Because
yes.
Usually I like to end this with positive things. I don't want people, the audience, to leave in a gloomy state of mind. So I just want to share with you some of this survey from for the Palestinians during the war, that 78% of Palestinians had more faith in humanity due to the international solidarity. 78% of people have more faith in humanity. They see hope in this human about solidarity and demonstrations. And which was for me very interesting to say is that 75% of Palestinians during the war, they think that we will win this battle of war. We will overcome and we will win this battle. And the last thing is that 80% said of Palestinians that they will achieve the liberation through this war. 80%, maybe they are crazy, but this is what they think. 80 people think that this war will lead to a Palestinian state. And 98% of Palestinians reported that they are feeling prouder of their identity. 98%, they are getting prouder of their identity as Palestinians during the war. This is very important because this shows how resilient the Palestinians are. And despite all these destructions and atrocities and genocide, people are staying. And you might see people in the destruction, they are putting like their mats and sitting, and they say that we are not leaving. It is the same thing here in the West Bank. People are very optimistic. I don't know why, but this is important because it will lead to more resilience. So leaving the country and new displacement is not an option for Palestinians. Palestinians have learned the lesson from history, from the Nakba, that if we leave once, we will not come back. So leaving the country, maybe we can leave from Ramallah to Nablus, from North Gaza to Khan Yunis or Rafah, but we stay in Palestine. We will never leave this country. We can come to Slovenia to visit and to see our friends in summer, like this year, but it is not an option to immigrate to Slovenia. To visit Slovenia is okay, but to immigrate out of Palestine is not an option.
Okay, Fareed, thank you so much. Thank you also for joining us at this event that was hosted by Prikliče and the Movement for the Rights of Palestinians. Thank you, Wafa, for also joining us and taking time. I would like to say that, yes, absolutely solidarity, optimism, and there is much to be proud of, Palestinian identity or being in solidarity with Palestinians. I think your steadfastness, your dignity, somehow your perseverance shows somehow a shining light in a way to many people of how to resist the injustice and how to see and wish for and fight for more just and more free future. And I think Wafo was also correct when she said that let's start at the beginning in a way and let's demand the right of return for all Palestinian refugees. And hopefully we can come together and visit all of you then in Palestine. So
we are waiting you here.
And we are also going to be very happy when you come to a short visit again to Slovenia. Thank you so much, Fareed. Stay safe, take care. Thank you, Wafa.